Space was silent, dark and endless. Ships moved through it like tiny dots, never stopping, never looking around. Everyone was too busy, too afraid, or too heartless to notice the weak signal coming from Sector 9. But one human did stop. His name was Daniel Reese. He was a cargo pilot, not a hero, not a soldier. Just a man flying alone with his old ship and an AI named Myra. He was on his way to deliver spare parts to a mining colony. Boring, quiet, routine work. But then the signal came. It was soft at first, like a whisper lost in static. Then it grew stronger, repeating every few seconds. A message, short and broken. Please, help my child. Anyone, please. Myra picked it up and ran a scan. No known match found, the AI said. Signal source, unregistered escape pod near Dead Moon, Sector 9. Any life signs? Daniel asked, leaning closer. One faint. Maybe two, Myra replied. But it could be a trap. Daniel stared at the screen. He should have ignored it. Like everyone else did. No one goes near Sector 9. Too quiet, too dead, too haunted. But Daniel wasn't like everyone else. Change course, he said. Let's check it out. The ship moved through the black, cold space. Stars blinked around them. Silent witnesses, two forgotten stories as they approached the Dead Moon. Daniel saw it, a small escape pod, barely holding together, spinning slowly, its lights almost gone. He brought the ship closer and locked onto it. Metal scraped as the pod connected to the docking hatch. Daniel put on his suit and moved inside, flashlight in hand. It was dark inside, cold, smelled of burnt wires and blood. He moved carefully, heart beating fast. Then he saw her, an alien female. Slumped against the wall, her skin was pale blue. Her face bruised, she held something tightly against her chest, a small bundle wrapped in silver cloth. Daniel knelt down. She was breathing, but just barely, and the bundle moved. He pulled back the cloth gently and saw a baby. Alien, yes, but small, weak, and alive. Its eyes opened for a moment and looked at him not with fear, but with hope. Myra spoke in his ear. Daniel, this species is considered dangerous. High threat. She doesn't look dangerous to me, he said. She looks like a mother trying to save her child. He lifted her carefully, one arm around her, the other holding the baby. As he turned to leave, she opened her eyes. Her voice was dry and broken, but clear. They're coming. Hunters, don't let them take her. Daniel paused. Who's coming? He asked, but she passed out. Again, back on the ship, he laid her in the medbed and placed the baby next to her. Myra scanned them both. She will survive if treated soon, the AI said. The child is stable, but its DNA is unusual. How unusual? How unusual? Daniel asked. It's new, Myra replied. I've never seen anything like it. Daniel looked at them both. He knew he was in trouble. He knew that helping them could bring danger or worse. But he also knew one thing. No one else cared. No one else had stopped. And someone had too. He checked the ship's radar again. Nothing yet, but the words echoed in his mind. They're coming. He closed the hatch, locked the controls, and powered the ship away from the Dead Moon. He didn't know where he was going yet, but he knew one thing. He wasn't going to let them die out there. Not on his watch. As the ship moved back into the dark sea of stars, a new light blinked on the console. Another signal, but this time, not a cry. A warning. Multiple ships in known origin approaching fast. Looks like the hunters are real, Daniel whispered. And this time, he wasn't just a cargo pilot anymore. He was their only hope. Daniel didn't sleep that night. How could he? A strange alien mother was unconscious in his bedroom. Her baby was sleeping quietly beside her. And outside, danger was growing. The warning signal kept flashing. Unknown ships moving closer every hour. Mira ran silent scans, blocking any signals that might give away their position. Still, Daniel knew time was short. He stood near the glass window of the bedroom, watching her breathe, slowly, painfully. Who was she? Why were hunters chasing her? And what made her baby so important? Suddenly, the lights flickered. Mira spoke in a low tone, life signs increasing. She's waking up. Daniel stepped forward. Slowly, the alien mother opened her eyes again. This time, she didn't look weak. She looked afraid. Easy, Daniel said gently. Hands open. You're safe now, on my ship. She tried to speak, but her throat was dry. Daniel gave her water and waited. After a few moments, she whispered, "You're human." "Yes," Daniel nodded. "Why did you help me?" she asked, her voice cracking. No one else did. Daniel replied. She looked at him, confused. "No one helps my kind." He sat beside the bed. "What's your name?" he asked. She hesitated. "Lyra," she said at last. "And the child?" he asked. She looked over at the baby with soft, glowing eyes. "My daughter, her name is Ara." Daniel looked at the small alien baby, still asleep. "What are you running from, Lyra?" Lyra closed her eyes for a moment, as if remembering something painful. Then she began to speak. "Our world is dying," she said. "The council took everything from us. They wanted control, power, and purity." "What does that mean?" Daniel asked. "My daughter. She was born different." Lyra said, "Her genes are not like the others. She can connect. She can feel. Not just thoughts, but hearts." Daniel didn't understand, but he listened. "She is the future of my kind," Lyra said softly. "But they fear her. They think she will make them weak. So they sent hunters to kill us." Daniel felt a cold chill. "Your own people sent bounty hunters." "Yes," Lyra nodded. "I stole a research pod and escaped. They followed us. I sent a distress call, but no one came, except me," Daniel said quietly. Lyra looked at him, her eyes filled with something he hadn't seen before: hope. "You are the first human I've met," she said. "And you are the first soul who showed mercy." Suddenly, a loud beeping filled the ship. Myra's voice came on. "Enemy ships approaching. 2 minutes out, they found us." Lyra sat up fast, ignoring the pain. "We have to go," she said. Daniel nodded and ran to the control deck. Mira started the engines. "We can't outrun them for long," the AI warned. "They're faster, better armed." Lyra entered the deck, holding her baby close. "I can help," she said. Daniel raised an eyebrow. "How?" She closed her eyes and placed her hand on a panel. At first, nothing happened. Then the ship's lights flickered. The engines roared louder. "Mira," Daniel said. The AI responded. Energy systems rising. Engine efficiency increased by 23%. "She's boosting the ship. I can connect to machines," Lyra said, "but only for a short time. It drains me." "That's enough," Daniel said. "We just need to lose them." The ship jumped forward with speed it had never reached before. Stars stretched like white lines. The enemy ships followed, firing blasts of red energy. One blast hit the back wing. Another grazed the side. The ship shook hard. Alarms rang everywhere. Daniel fought the controls. Myra kept giving damage reports. "Brace for a sharp turn," he shouted. He sent the ship spinning through an asteroid field. Rocks flew past them like knives. The enemy ships hesitated, slowed. One hit an asteroid and exploded. "We're down to one," Mira said. Then Lyra stepped forward again. She placed her hand on the screen, whispering something in her language. Suddenly, the ship behind them lost power, drifting into the dark. Daniel stared at her, amazed. "What did you do?" "I sent a pulse," she said. "Weak now. She won't." "Follow us again." The ship calmed. Silence returned. Daniel took a deep breath. "We made it," he said. Lyra nodded, holding her baby close, but her face was still tense. "This is not over," she said. "They will send more, stronger ones." Daniel looked at her. "Then we'll be ready." She smiled, tired but thankful. "You really are different," she whispered. "A human who cares, and somewhere—" Deep in the ship, little Era opened her eyes again. For a moment, they glowed like starlight, and something old, powerful, and new awakened inside her. The ship floated in deep space, silent once again. But silence was never safe. Not anymore. Daniel checked the scanners again. Clear. No signals, no ships, just stars and darkness. Still, something felt wrong. Lyra sat near the child, whispering soft alien words. Her arms were trembling, not from fear, from knowing they will come again. She said, "They always do." Daniel nodded. "I know," he said. "But this time, I'll be ready." He wasn't a fighter. Not really, but he wasn't alone now. That changed everything. Myra's voice broke the moment of calm. Alert. Motion detected, small object approaching, no engine signature. Daniel frowned. "Stealth drone," he said. Or worse, he ran to the viewing screen. A black shape drifted through space, slow but steady, like a shadow with claws. "Mira." "Shield up now," he said, but it was already too late. The ship jolted, power flickered, then silence. "Mira." No answer. Lyra stood up fast. "They're here," she said. Voice full of ice. The hunters, the ship's lights turned red. Daniel grabbed his old blaster from the emergency locker. He looked at Lyra. "Stay here. Protect Era." He moved. Down the hallway, slow and careful. The ship creaked. Metal groaned. Like something was crawling through its bones. Then he saw it. A tall, thin creature with armor like black glass. Its face was hidden behind a sharp mask. It didn't walk. It glided. Daniel fired. The blast hit the wall. The thing moved too fast. In a blink, it was gone. Daniel's heart raced. This wasn't a bounty hunter. This was something else. He turned around, and it was right behind him. It grabbed him by the neck and lifted him. Into the air, he struggled, gasped, tried to aim. Then a scream, not from Daniel, from Era, the alien baby. She screamed so loud it echoed through the walls, a sound not made of pain, but power. The hunter froze. It dropped Daniel, who hit the floor hard. The creature turned its head toward the medroom. Its body shook. Then Crack's helmet shattered. Daniel looked up, eyes wide. The thing collapsed. Black mist leaking from its body. Daniel ran back to the medroom. Lyra was holding Ara tight. The baby's eyes were glowing again, brighter than ever. "What happened?" he asked. Lyra was shaking. "She protected you," she said. "She's—" Waking up, Ara looked at Daniel, her tiny hand reaching out. For a moment, he felt something inside his head, a memory that wasn't his. A star burning, a voice crying, a planet falling. Then it stopped. The baby closed her eyes again, asleep. Daniel staggered back. "What was that?" he whispered. "She's starting to feel." Lyra said, "She touched your mind. She saw your fear, and she answered it." Daniel sat down, trying to breathe. One hunter was dead, but others would follow, and next time, Era might not be strong enough. Suddenly, Myra's voice returned. "Systems online. Backup restored. Enemy boarding craft detected 3 more lifeforms approaching." Daniel stood up. "3 more," he repeated. Lyra stood too. "We fight together." She said, "No." Daniel replied, "You protect." "Era, I'll deal with them." He ran back to the hallway. This time, he had a plan. He lured the hunters toward the engine room, let them follow, then trap the doors, release pressure. The ship hissed as the air was sucked from the room. 2 hunters were pulled into the void, one held on, claws digging into the floor. Daniel fired again. This time, he didn't miss. The last hunter fell. Lifeless. Daniel closed the doors. Air returned. He fell to his knees, exhausted, alive, barely, back in the bedroom. Lyra looked at him. "You did it," she said. Daniel looked at Ara, who was still sleeping. "No," he said. "She did." He walked over and sat beside the mother. And child, his ship was damaged. His body was bruised. But something had changed. He wasn't just protecting passengers. He was guarding a secret the galaxy wanted to erase. And now he had one question burning in his mind. Why is this baby so powerful? And what happens when the whole galaxy finds out? The ship floated through the quiet stretch of Sector 12. Its engine still weak, but running, its walls still cracked. But holding, inside, the silence was heavy. Not with fear, but with questions. Daniel sat in the dark control room, staring at the stars. He wasn't thinking about the damage anymore. He was thinking about her, not Lyra, the child, Ara. She looked so small, so innocent. But inside her lived something strange, something powerful, something ancient. Lyra stepped in quietly, holding a warm cup. "You haven't rested," she said. Daniel didn't turn. "Tell me what she is," he said. Lyra sat down beside him. "She's what we were," Lyra said softly. "And what we lost." Daniel looked at her, waiting. Keela's voice was calm, but full of pain. "My people were not always cold," she said. "Kulas, we were once connected to the living energy of the stars. We called it the thread." Daniel raised an eyebrow. "Thread?" Lyra nodded. "It was a bond between minds, between hearts, between worlds. But as our science grew, so did our fear. We began to separate. We turned emotion into weakness, connection into danger." She looked down at her hands. "They erased the thread from us, cut it from our children, forced silence into our minds." Daniel said nothing. He knew what silence felt like. He had lived most of his life in it. But sometimes, Lyra said, a child is born. Remembering, they called them Echoborn. Daniel stood slowly. "Era is Echoborn." "Yes," Lyra said. "Maybe the last one." Daniel walked over to the bedroom window. Era was asleep, glowing faintly under the soft light. "Why? Does the galaxy fear her?" he asked. Lyra joined him at the glass. "Because she can feel truth," she whispered. "She can reach into the soul, see what's hidden, heal what's broken." Daniel turned to her. "That sounds like a miracle." "Not a threat to you, maybe," Lyra said, "but to those in power." Truth is poison. Daniel understood. He had seen enough corrupt leaders, enough broken systems. He had smuggled food to hungry planets while governments threw feasts. He had seen the truth and turned away. But not this time. "She showed me something," Daniel said, "when she touched my mind. A memory, a star dying, a voice screaming." Lyra nodded slowly. She's still learning to control it. But she remembers more than just her own life. She remembers the pain of our people. Just then, Myra's voice came online. "Captain, you need to see this." They moved to the command deck. A map appeared on the main screen. Red dots surrounded Sector 12. Alien symbols lit up each one marked with hunter signatures. "They've spread a net," Myra said. "They're not chasing anymore. They're closing in." Lyra's face turned pale. "They'll never stop," she whispered. Daniel stared at the map. Lines of ships forming like teeth in a trap. Then his eyes landed on one blue dot, a forgotten planet on the edge of the map. Covered in forest storms, and no signal, no colonies, no cities. Myra reported, "Just wild land and energy storms." "Perfect," Daniel said. "We hide there. It's dangerous," Myra warned. "The storms could shut down the ship." "We don't need the ship," Daniel replied. "We just need a place to vanish." Lyra placed her hand on the screen. Her eyes widened. This place. It speaks to her. She dreams of it. Daniel looked at her. You mean Ara? Lyra nodded. She called it the Heartwood. Myra paused. Legendary world, uncharted. Said to have old energy, unconfirmed myth. Daniel smiled. Myths are the best place to hide. As the ship changed course, Era stirred in her sleep. For a moment, her lips moved, and though no one heard it clearly, it felt like a whisper through the ship, home. Daniel leaned back in his chair. He didn't know what was waiting on that wild planet, but he knew one thing. They were no longer just running from something. They were running towards something ancient, something lost, and maybe something that could change everything. The storm world called Heartwood was beautiful. But beauty did not mean safety. Daniel's ship moved through thick blue clouds. Lightning flashed outside like dragons in the sky. Winds howled like forgotten voices. The ship shook with every breath of the storm. But they made it through. Below them, forests stretched like oceans of green, vines wrapped around trees as tall as towers. And above it all, a strange calm waited, alive, ancient, and watching this place. Lyra whispered, "It feels like it remembers us." Daniel didn't answer. He was focused on the signal. A faint human beacon blinked from the far side of the planet, hidden, weak, but real. "Mira," he said. "Confirm ID, human outpost." "Confirmed," the AI replied. "Deep recon post, forgotten after war." Last logged 10 years ago. Daniel smiled. Perfect kind of place to be forgotten again. They landed on soft moss beside the old facility. It looked like a skeleton of metal and vines, half buried, half broken. But there was power inside. Daniel, Lyra, and Era entered slowly, weapons ready. The air smelled like rain, rust, and something older. Then came the voice. "Drop your weapon, pilot." Daniel turned. 3 figures stood in shadow humans. One woman, tall, scarred. 2 men beside her, armored, but tired-looking. Daniel raised his hands. Names, Daniel Reese. Civilian transport. "I've got passengers." The woman stepped forward. "Captain Elara Quinn, Earth Recon Unit." "You're not supposed to be here." Daniel nodded. "We didn't mean to be. We're just trying to stay alive." Alara's eyes shifted too. "Lyra and the child, you brought them?" She asked coldly. "We've been hunting her species for years. She's not like them." Daniel said, "She's a mother, and the child. She's different." Elara didn't move, didn't blink. Finally, she said, "Come inside. We need to talk." Inside the outpost, lights flickered, machines hummed, old Earth tech mixed with wild plant growth. It looked half alive, half dead. A place forgotten by both war and time. They sat around a table. Era slept in Lyra's arms. Elara stared at her, long and silent. Finally, she spoke. "We lost 5 ships trying to stop her kind." Daniel shook his head. "This isn't war. This is survival." "She's a threat," said one of Ilar's men. "You don't understand what she can do. I've seen what she can do." Daniel replied, "She saved my life. She saved my ship." Elara stood and walked to a nearby console. She tapped a few buttons. A screen lit up showing files. Images, echoborn reports, experiments, warnings. "She's not the first," Elara said, "but she may be the last. The others. They didn't survive." Lyra tightened her arms around Era. Daniel looked at Elara. "What happened to them?" "They were taken," she said. "Studied, dissected, erased." Daniel stepped forward. "You're not going to touch her, Elara." Looked at him. "I don't want to, but command will." That night, Daniel couldn't sleep. The outpost was quiet, but his thoughts were loud. He didn't trust Elara. He didn't trust anyone anymore. Suddenly, Mira's voice whispered in his earpiece, "Daniel." Motion detected near the child. He jumped to his feet and ran down the hallway. Past dark doors and buzzing lights, he reached the medroom, stopped. One of Alara's men stood inside, holding a vial, preparing a needle, moving toward Arahe. Daniel shouted. The man turned, startled, then pulled a weapon. Before he could fire, a pulse of energy hit the wall. Lyra had awakened, her eyes glowing faintly. The man dropped to the floor, unconscious. Daniel rushed forward. What the hell was that? Lyra held Ara close. They're not allies, she said. Not anymore. The next morning, Daniel confronted Alara. She didn't deny it. I told them not to, she said. But the orders are coming from Earth. They want the child? Well, they can't have her. Daniel said, we're leaving. You won't survive the storm again, Alara warned. Maybe not, Daniel replied. But at least we'll still be human. He turned away. Lyra followed, Ara in her arms. The wind outside howled again. As they reached the ship, Ara opened her eyes. This time, she spoke a word. Just one, but it echoed in all of them. Betrayal. Daniel looked back at the outpost and knew the real danger wasn't always outside. Sometimes it lived behind friendly smiles, and sometimes the worst enemies were those who once stood beside you. The storm outside had changed. It was no longer just wind and rain. It sounded like war, like the sky itself was ready to tear open. Daniel stood at the front of the ship, his hands shaking as he adjusted the broken controls. The engines were ready, but barely. They had one chance to get out, one shot through the storm. Behind him, Lyra held Ara close. The child didn't cry. She just stared out the window. Her eyes glowing, her hands warm with silent power. She knows, Lyra whispered. Daniel didn't look back. Knows what? He asked. She knows this. Is goodbye, Lyra said. Daniel turned then. What do you mean? Lyra stepped forward slowly. She's seen it in the thread. She's felt the moment coming. Mira's voice came over the speaker. Enemy transport ships detected. They're coming, Daniel said, faster than expected. Lyra looked at the storm outside. Flashes of blue lightning danced across the sky. The wind screamed. She touched the wall of the ship gently. Daniel, she said, you must take her through the storm. You must get her to the other. Sighed, he shook his head. No, we go together. I can't, Lyra said. I have to stay, but don't slow them down. They'll catch you before you even reach the clouds. We'll fight together, Daniel insisted. But Lyra just smiled. A small, tired smile. I've been running too long. She said, it's time I stand. Daniel's fists clenched. You don't have to die for us. No, she said softly. I have to live for her. There was silence between them, the kind that says more than words ever could. Then Ara reached out. Her tiny hand touched Daniel's arm. She looked into his eyes, and again he felt it, the thread, but this time it was calm, warm, like she was saying goodbye without using her voice. I'll bring her somewhere safe, Daniel whispered. I swear it. Lyra nodded. She kissed Ara's forehead. Her lips trembled, but her hands did not go. She said now. The doors opened. The wind hit like a wave. Rain poured sideways. Daniel stepped into the storm with Ara in his arms. Behind him, Lyra walked toward the trees, toward the sound of enemy ships breaking through the sky. Her steps were slow, but her purpose was clear. She didn't run, she stood, and the storm moved. Around her like it remembered who she was. From the cockpit, Daniel watched her one last time. A flash of red fire hit the trees behind her, and still she did not move. Myra spoke. Engines charged. Ready for launch. Do it, Daniel said. The ship rose, shaking. The storm fought them. The lightning struck like claws, but Ara stayed quiet, calm, focused. Then, just before they hit the clouds, the ground below exploded in light. A wave of energy pulsed through the air. It was Lyra, Her final stand. She had unleashed everything. The last of the thread within her to give them a chance. The ship burst through the clouds, up, out, into the stars. Leaving the storm and the burning forest behind, silence returned. But it was not peace. It was grief, heavy and real. Daniel sat in the pilot's seat. He didn't speak, didn't move. Ara sat beside him, holding his sleeve, her eyes no longer glowing, just sad and quiet. "She's gone," he said softly. Myra's voice came through. "I am sorry, Daniel." He nodded, but said nothing. Then Ara placed her hand on the screen. A soft pulse of light appeared, a Shapler's face, made of light, and a voice. Her voice. "Protect her, Daniel. And remember, you were the first human to care." The light faded, and the stars waited ahead. Daniel set a new course, too. Somewhere quiet, somewhere safe, somewhere Lyra would have wanted her daughter to grow. He looked down at Ara. "You're not just her legacy," he said. "You're our future." The engines hummed, the stars stretched forward, and the story of the alien mother became the story of the child. And the man who refused to let her die? Years passed. The galaxy did not stop turning. Wars rose and fell. Empires changed. Names, but some stories survived, told in whispers, and carried by those who remembered. On a quiet human colony near the edge of space, a school stood beneath a sky of twin suns. Children played in fields of glowing grass, laughing, shouting, free, and among them was a girl. She looked human, but her eyes held a deeper light. Something ancient, something kind. Her name was Ara. She lived with a man called Daniel Reese. To the locals, he was just an old pilot, quiet, calm, gentle. But if you asked him about his past, he'd smile and say, "Just a delivery guy who got lost in the stars." But that wasn't true. Not really. At night, Daniel would sit under the sky, watching the stars blink like old friends, and Ara would sit beside him, sometimes silent, sometimes full of questions. "Tell me again," she'd say. "Tell me the story," and he always would. He told her about a ship running from war, about a mother who gave everything, about a child who cried without sound, and a pilot just a man who stopped when no one else would. Each time he told it, she listened with wide eyes, and sometimes, at the very end, a single tear would slide down her cheek. But she never cried for herself. She cried for her, the mother she had never really known. One evening, the sky turned red with sunset, and Ara stood on the cliff above the valley, her arms out, her eyes closed. Daniel watched her from the porch, and saw the wind dance around her like it remembered her too. That night, Myra's old voice returned, after years of silence. "Daniel," the II said softly. "She's doing it again." He walked to the control panel and looked. Screens lit up with gentle waves of energy, signals spreading from arrow-like ripples in water. But not harmful, not loud, just reaching. "Is she searching?" Daniel asked. "No," Mira replied. "She's calling." The next day, things began to change. Animals from the forests walked closer to the fields. Flowers bloomed in patterns. People began to feel strange. Warmth in their hearts, old pain fading, old anger softening, and some children began to say, "I heard something when she looked at me." Not words, just kindness. Then one day, a small ship landed at the edge of the colony. An alien stepped out, not a hunter, not a soldier, but a child lost, scared, and alone. He had followed the signal. He had felt Ara's voice. And Daniel knew it had begun. More came, one by one, not armies, not scouts, just those looking for peace, for healing, for connection. Ara greeted each of them. Her voice still soft, but her presence like sunlight. She didn't speak much, but when she looked at you, you felt seen. Known, safe. One night, years later, Daniel grew weak. The stars above him seemed closer, and the wind spoke gently. Era sat beside him. Still young, still glowing, she held his hand, tears in her eyes. "I don't want you to go," she said. He smiled. "You've already carried more than I ever could. Tell me one last time," she whispered. He looked at her, his voice shaking but strong. No one cared for the alien mother, he said, until a human stepped forward. She nodded, and because of that, a child changed the galaxy. Daniel closed his eyes. The stars blinked, and for a moment, he felt her lyra, smiling. Waiting, he passed with peace in his heart, and Ara stood, not as a child anymore, but as something new. A bridge between worlds, a light in the dark. Years later, people would ask, who was she? And old records would name her Era of the Thread. The first to heal the void between stars, the child of hope, raised by a human. Born from sacrifice, feared by empires, loved by all. And somewhere in a quiet place of memory, the voice of a mother still echoed, not in sorrow, but in pride.